Hello everyone, Old Can here, and today we're gonna get skulled. Actually, we're gonna draw some skulls. So this is my first, well maybe not my first, but I'm gonna do a little tutorial, sort of tutorial. I'm gonna branch out into this type of video I think lately, and I'm sorry for this first one being done. I kind of decided to do a video after I did this because this is really my first attempt at practice at drawing skulls, and that's sort of what made me want to make this video. So what's held me back in my art is I don't know if it's a part of me felt like I was too good to study fundamentals. I thought I would have a better way of doing it than other people and other artists, and I would just learn as I go. And, I have. I think I had some innate tendencies that I thought pulled me through, and looking back at some of my previous art, is definitely not the case. And I came to a point where I was really struggling with, for far too long, still to this day, after years and years and years of practice, of really struggling to get the placement and construction of a face and head properly. It was just inconsistent. Sometimes I'd get it right, sometimes I'd get it wrong. But not just the head, there's really a form of things. So I would, for instance, here we're looking at this one that I'm drawing here, and this one is probably the weakest one out of the group that I did, and it sort of illustrates my point. So in drawing these and sort of researching skulls, it's something I hadn't really thought about in drawing, is that the lower jaw is the thing that moves up and down. And so when you're drawing a face on with someone's mouth open, you would be seeing just the jaw going down, so that you would see the teeth, sort of the bottom teeth would be the ones that are in an angle or like a circular motion there. It's something I hadn't really thought of, and that really made me start thinking about this. So it was a really, even though this one isn't my best skull here, it really kind of taught me the most of what I wanted to get out of this practice. And I encourage you to just take a bunch of skull pictures and use them as a reference, like I did here. And you don't even have to worry about lighting it or anything, if that's the case, if you're just looking for construction. But I would say do lighting too, because you want to learn the form. The process is learning the forms. So I could do construction, basic line construction of a face, copy what others have told me to do. You do the circle, you do the lines across where the eyes and nose go, and you do basic lines. But when you're painting and even drawing, with lines, it can be very subtle which lines you're going to put in there to imply where the form is. And I always relied on like shading and everything to do that, but I was never at the level to do like a simple line. And it always I sort of tried to fake it, and it never really worked. And so there was a big gap in my brain that I kept getting frustrated with. Now, I was never a person to study fundamentals and anatomy. I was kind of what I've learned, I've picked up by redoing it. Now, I've done studies, but I didn't do studies just like I didn't do 1,000 hands or 1,000 eyes or this or that. I just would use a picture and try to replicate it, but change it into my own style. And you do learn from that, but like I started off really not paying attention to fundamentals. And I knew that one thing that was holding me back was anatomy. And the thought of doing studies like this just wasn't appealing to me before. I just didn't want to sit here and do a study of something boring. I wanted to draw a really fun picture. I wanted to do an illustration. I wanted to do something that would excite the audience or just really blow people away. And of course it doesn't, because your anatomy is wrong or you don't understand forms. And partly in this exercise, but what led to me is that I started getting a little bit more, kind of practicing in some of my drawings and getting over a little tiny hump of starting to be able to paint forms a little bit better. And it started to feel exciting. And then it sort of clicked on me. And I started doing these skulls, and I said, well, I'll do this. Maybe this will help me with face construction. It really does. If you can see here, doing this 3/4 view of this skull and getting the opposing, the far cheekbone sticking out, wouldn't be something that I would, without looking at a reference and without sort of having some time drawing a bunch of faces and getting it wrong. These angles and these and what comes out and how it comes out, and I even get it wrong and I correct the lower jawbone. The far side is jutting out a little bit too much underneath the teeth. I moved that back because I can find that it didn't look right. But just seeing how it, just when you're doing the lines and doing the outline, it had items I didn't think the cheekbones really came out quite that much. I didn't think they were that pronounced, but when you're really studying the skulls, they really do. And then you imagine the flesh going around it and such. And then when you're doing the lighting on these and you're doing which planes are catching the light, which planes are pushing back, even the side of the skull. Now, I'm not going to know any of the medical or technical terms of all these, but the ridge on the eyebrow going back to the into the skull where there's a little sort of almost like a dent in your skull. All these little things came out of this exercise that I thought was just really great, and since I've done this, it really did affect my drawing and constructions of faces. It really made me come back mentally to the actual skull. And what helped is that it gave me confidence of knowing that's not right when I'm making a mistake. And so I'm either doing it better the first time or I'm seeing where the error is. And I think that's an important distinction. So I decided to start making maybe how-to videos or these types of videos, instructional videos, because I think I have a unique perspective is that I didn't go to art school and I didn't study the proper way. So really this is a way of, if you want to take a really long time getting good at very basic things, then follow what I did. But if you don't, it's more of my sort of perspective is don't do things the way I did it. So I'm trying to save some people some time. Maybe there's someone out there that's like me that doesn't like doing studies, doesn't see the point in them, or just doesn't feel the desire to do them, and doesn't like the tedious study. I was never a good studier in school. I'm never good at doing really tedious things. That maybe I could help them out. So why this what's the word? This study, this practice, this oh my, when you get old, your brain starts to go. Anyways, what I'm drawing here, the skulls, what it did is really made me fall in love with painting forms. And so this is sort of my new kick, and I understand how maybe doing studies and specific anatomy practice can be fun, because it's really fun playing around with light, color, and planes and form. And so it's added a new dimension that instead of just making a really fun picture, which is always going to be fun to do a complete illustration and really feel like you've done a really good job that should inspire people. But making something specific, I'm making something that's a practice, something that's not meant to be shown to the world in a finished form. Like, I didn't spend time really polishing these and finishing them up. I think this one was my best one, the one I just finished there. Turned out really well. I actually really liked that, really liked the lighting. It seemed very natural lighting and really well constructed, I think. Some minor errors or anything. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time on these. This is sped up. I think the full regular speed video was about an hour total for all of these complete. So I was rushing through these pretty fast. So I think I did an okay job, considering that I was not spending a lot of time like polishing up the skull to make it look perfect. And it's not necessarily been my go-to to have everything super polished, but I'm definitely working on that. But I think it turned out really well. But yeah, so I'm now going into even pieces that I am like an illustration, going into it with a more specific goal. Like, I'm not necessarily taking pride in the finished product as much as, like, I still will, but I'm not taking so much in the pride of the finished product. I'm taking pride in every little plane shift and hue variation, and really getting into that really fun part of art where you're playing around with a bit of more knowledge of the basics are there. So now you have to play around with some of the forms and hue shifts and lighting and all that. So if you really want to take advice, this is not so much as a tutorial, other than I think that I wanted to show this exercise. Exercise was the word I was looking for earlier. And I would encourage you, if you're watching this and you like what I'm saying, or anything resonates with you, maybe you're like I am, maybe you're the exact opposite, maybe you do a lot of exercises, but you can't find the joy in it. It's really about learning how to manipulate. It's almost like learning that magic tool of art, of being able to manipulate things. So I hope that helps. I'd like to do some more tutorials. I have one suggestion about doing clothing, so look forward to that one. I might do some how to draw clothing and materials and that sort of thing, because I'm interested in this form thing. So anyways, that's my video for today.